The drug game has rules. You don't hit women. You don't hit children. You don't hit family. Every hustler from Harlem to Compton learned those 3 rules before they learned how to weigh a kilo, before they learned how to count cash, before they learned how to carry a gun. Rules kept the game alive. Rules kept the streets from turning into complete chaos. But there were a few men in Black American history who didn't believe in rules. Men who crossed every line. Men who did things other kingpins refused to do. Things so dark the streets still whisper about them 50 years later. This video is about 5 of them. We're going to count them down from 5 to 1. Number 5 killed a rival's cousin who was cooking a steak sandwich behind a convenience store counter. Number 4 killed his own girlfriend to stop her from testifying against him. Number 3 ordered the mother of his baby son killed while his own infant was pulled out of a car and dumped in a grandmother's yard. Number 2 ordered a 22-year-old rookie cop killed from his prison cell because a different cop had told him to put his beer in a paper bag. Number 1 drowned babies in a bathtub and a kitchen sink in a house that was donated by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Every single fact you are about to hear is verified in court records. Let us start the countdown. Philadelphia, the late 1980s. Aaron Jones runs the Junior Black Mafia, the JBM. The JBM dominates the Philadelphia crack trade. They have a slogan, "Get down or lay down." It means sell for us or die. At his peak, Aaron Jones is making hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. He wears money green Fila tracksuits and drives a money green Mercedes. He patterns himself after Marlon Brando in The Godfather. By 1990, Aaron Jones is in federal prison fighting charges. He still runs the JBM from behind bars. In May 1990, one of his top lieutenants, a man named Leroy Bucky Davis, is shot and killed outside a row house in West Philadelphia. Jones is told by another JBM member that Bucky was killed by a rival named Brian Moochie Thornton. Thornton is also in prison, so Jones cannot get to Thornton directly. But Thornton has a cousin, a 26-year-old JBM lieutenant named Bruce Kennedy. Kennedy runs a convenience store called Mommy's Market at 54th and Master in West Philadelphia. And here is what makes the situation worse for Kennedy. Kennedy is dating Aaron Jones's baby mama. Jones is locked up and Kennedy is with her. On August 17, 1990, Jones organizes a meeting from prison. He orders his second-in-command, Samuel Black Sam Brown, to have Kennedy killed. On August 18, 1990, 2 hitmen walked into Mommy's Market. Bruce Kennedy stood behind the counter, cooking a steak sandwich. James Anderson and Christopher Anderson opened fire. They shot Kennedy more than a dozen times. James Anderson stood over his body and fired 3 more bullets into his head after he was already dead. Bruce Kennedy died behind the counter of his store. Christopher Anderson, the younger of the 2 shooters, eventually flipped. He testified against his own co-defendants. Aaron Jones was sentenced to death. He is the only black kingpin on this list on death row in Pennsylvania. He is still alive today. His death sentence has been under appeal for decades. Bruce Kennedy was killed for 2 reasons: because his cousin was suspected of a murder and because he was sleeping with the boss's woman. Neither reason was enough to warrant his death. But Aaron Jones did not care. Number 4, Wayne Silk Perry. Washington, D.C., in the late 1980s had a nickname. The streets called it Drama City. Because the murder rate in D.C. during the crack era was so high, the capital of the United States was recording more murders per capita than any city in America. And in Drama City, one name stood above the rest: Silk. Wayne Silk Perry worked as the main enforcer and bodyguard for Alpo Martinez, who expanded his Harlem drug operation into D.C. in 1990. The Washington Post later called Silk the Michael Jordan of the murder game. Silk did not run a drug empire. He killed for a living. He worked for the Martinez organization, the drug ring that moved cocaine from New York to D.C. to Maryland to Virginia. Between 1989 and 1991, the Martinez organization committed at least 9 murders. Federal prosecutors indicted Silk for 8 of them. Silk was known for one thing above all else. He did not care. He would kill in broad daylight. He would kill on crowded streets. He would kill in front of parked police cars. Witnesses claimed he threw hand grenades during one attack. In 1984, when Silk was still a teenager, another gang member came looking to kill him. The man shot first and missed. Silk shot back and killed the man. The killing happened directly in front of a parked police car, with the officers inside watching. Even with eyewitnesses and police testimony calling it self-defense, Silk was convicted for that murder. He was sent to Lorton's Youth Center, one of the most violent prisons in America. He got out and kept killing. The murder that caught up with him was personal. In October 1991, Silk killed a D.C. drug dealer named Garrett Gary Terrell. A woman named Evelyn Carter knew about it. Evelyn Carter was Silk's own girlfriend. When police started investigating him for the Terrell killing, Silk realized Evelyn could connect him to it. So he killed her too, his own girlfriend, the woman he had been living with. Silk was finally arrested in December 1992. When he realized the federal government had enough evidence to send him to death row, he did something no one expected. He cut a deal. He testified against his friend, Alpo Martinez. In exchange, the government took the death penalty off the table. Silk was sentenced to life without parole at a DX Florence, the Supermax prison in Colorado. He is still there today. Alpo Martinez went into witness protection. Both men had betrayed each other to survive. Number 3, Fat Cat Nicholls, Jamaica, Queens in 1987. Lorenzo Fat Cat Nicholls is running a drug operation that brought in $20 million a year out of a back office at a deli called Big Mac's on 150th Street. He is in federal prison on drug charges, but his organization is still running. He has a problem. His former girlfriend, a 20-year-old woman named Myrtle Maesha Horsham, is the mother of his infant son, a baby named TC. Myrtle has been stealing money from Fat Cat's drug operation. From his federal prison cell, Fat Cat orders her killed. They waited for Myrtle at her mother's house in Jamaica, Queens. 2 of them hid in the back seat of a car belonging to Myrtle's friend, Regina Brown. Regina was supposed to be giving Myrtle a lift home. Myrtle walked out of her mother's house carrying baby TC in her arms. She saw the men in the car. She tried to run. They forced her into the car. Regina Brown was also forced in. The baby was in Myrtle's arms. They drove the 2 women and the baby to a dead-end street in Queens. They shot both women 5 or 6 times at point-blank range. Myrtle Horsham died on that street. She was 20 years old. Regina Brown survived. She managed to crawl out of the car and flag down a passing motorist. Sometime after midnight, the killers called Myrtle's mother from a payphone. They told her to go look in her yard. Baby TC had been dumped there. He is presumed to have been a witness to his mother's shooting. For each of the 4 hit men involved in the killing, Fat Cat paid $5,000 and 125 grams of cocaine. That was the price of Myrtle Horsham's life. Fat Cat pleaded guilty to ordering her murder in 1989. He was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. He was released on parole in 2022 after serving 34 years. TC is now an adult. He was raised by his maternal grandmother, the same woman the killers called that night. Number 2, Papy Mason. February 26, 1988. Jamaica, Queens, 3:30 a.m. A 22-year-old rookie cop named Edward Byrne is sitting in his patrol car in front of a small house on 107th Avenue and Inwood Street. He has been on the job 7 months. His assignment is to protect a Guyanese immigrant named Arjun. Arjun had reported drug activity on his street. His house had already been firebombed twice. Byrne is reading a folded-up copy of the Daily News. His portable radio is on the seat beside him. A car pulls up alongside his patrol car. 2 men get out. One of them fires 5 bullets through the driver's side window directly into Edward Byrne's head. Byrne dies instantly in his patrol car. The killers get back in their car and drive away. The 4 men who carried out the hit were David McClary, Todd Scott, Philip Copeland, and Scott Cobb. They were paid $8,000 to do it, but none of them had ordered the killing. The order had come from federal prison, from a man named Papy Mason. Papy Mason was the leader of a Jamaica, Queens drug crew called the Bebos. He worked closely with Fat Cat Nicholls. His crew was making up to $200,000 a month selling crack. Here's why Edward Byrne died. 10 days before the murder, Papy Mason had been out on bail. He was drinking a beer on a South Jamaica street corner. A plainclothes officer known on the streets as the Iceman walked up to him. The officer didn't arrest him, didn't search him, and didn't know his name. He just said 4 words. Put it in a bag. Papy asked the cop if he knew who he was. The cop replied yes, the guy who was going to put his beer in a paper bag. Papy took it as disrespect. 2 days later, he was sent back to prison on an unrelated gun charge. From his cell, Papy gave the order, kill a cop, any cop, send a message. He had one of his lieutenants front $8,000. 4 men got picked for the hit. They drove past Arjun's house multiple times before committing. Trial testimony revealed they had passed over a female officer and a black officer because they believed those killings would be seen as weak. They picked Edward Byrne, a rookie, a white cop, alone in a car at 3:30 in the morning. Byrne had nothing to do with the paper bag incident. He had never met Papy Mason. He died because another cop in a different neighborhood had told a drug dealer to put his beer in a paper bag. The 4 shooters got 25 years to life. Papy Mason got a federal life sentence in 1994. He is 66 years old today, still in federal prison, and he is still alive because of a single refused demand. He wanted respect. Number 1, Ronald Harvey. And now we get to number 1, the worst of them all. January 18th, 1973, Washington, D.C., a 3-story brick house at 7716th Street Northwest. The house had been purchased in 1971 for $78,000 by basketball star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He had given it to the Hanafi Muslim community, a Sunni Islamic sect led by a man named Hamas Abdul Khalis. Khalis had a problem with the Nation of Islam. He had sent letters to all 50 Nation of Islam mosques across the country. In the letters, he called Elijah Muhammad a fraud. He said Elijah Muhammad had robbed black people of their money. He accused him of damning black people to hell. The Philadelphia Black Mafia, tied to the Nation of Islam, decided Khalis had to die. On the afternoon of January 18, 1973, 7 members of the Black Mafia drove from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. in 2 cars. The leader of the group was a man named Ronald Harvey. 2 of them knocked on the door of the Hanafi house. They told Khalis's son Daud that they wanted to purchase Hanafi religious literature. Daud let them in. He handed them a book. He left the room to get change for their money. When he came back, he heard them say, "This is a stick-up." 5 or 6 more men had entered the house. Dodd was taken to the 3rd floor and shot dead. Another adult relative, Abdu Nur, was shot in a bedroom. Khallis's wife, Bibi, was dragged upstairs. They forced her to watch them drown 2 children in an upstairs bathtub. Then they dragged her to the basement. They forced her to watch them drown her 9-day-old granddaughter in a kitchen sink. Downstairs, a 10-year-old boy was shot dead. An 11-year-old was attacked. 2 adult women were shot multiple times and left for dead. Khallis's adult daughter, Amina, was shot in the head and survived with permanent brain damage. When it was over, 7 people were dead. 5 of them were children. 2 of those children were infants. Hamas Abdul Khallis came home hours later. He found his family. Ronald Harvey was caught, convicted, sentenced to life in prison. He died behind bars in 1988. But the story did not end there. 4 years after the massacre, Khallis gathered a group of armed Hanafi followers. On March 9, 1977, they stormed 3 buildings in Washington, D.C., the District Building, the Islamic Center of Washington, and B'nai B'rith headquarters. They took 149 hostages. Khallis had one demand: bring him the men who had murdered his family in 1973. During the 39-hour siege, a young D.C. council member named Marion Barry was shot. A radio reporter named Maurice Williams was killed. A security guard was shot. Khallis surrendered after 3 foreign ambassadors from Iran, Egypt, and Pakistan personally negotiated with him. He spent the rest of his life in prison. He died in 2003. Ronald Harvey had killed his family in a house donated by one of the most famous black athletes in America. And today, most black Americans do not know Harvey's name. That is why he is number 1 on this list. Not just because of what he did, it is because of how completely the world has forgotten him. Part 6. The Truth. Every kingpin on this list had one thing in common. They all believed power was about what you were willing to do that other men would not. Aaron Jones killed a young man working in a convenience store because that man was dating his baby mama and was a cousin to a suspected rival. Silk Perry killed his own girlfriend because she could testify against him. Fat Cat Nicholls killed the mother of his own son because she stole money from his operation. Papy Mason ordered a rookie cop killed because he could not accept being told to put a beer in a bag by a street cop he did not know. And Ronald Harvey drowned babies because he wanted to prove the Philadelphia Black Mafia would kill anyone to defend the Nation of Islam, even children protected by a house donated by a basketball superstar. 5 men, 5 unthinkable acts, 5 reasons that made sense only to them. Aaron Jones is on death row in Pennsylvania, still alive because his appeals have not ended. Silk Perry is in ADX. Florence, the most secure prison in America. Fat Cat Nicholls walked out of prison on parole in 2022, 34 years after his crimes. Papy Mason is 66, still in a federal cell, and will die there. Ronald Harvey died in federal prison in 1988. The streets remember them as monsters. The courts remember them as defendants. The families of their victims remember them every day, every year, for the rest of their lives. The baby TC grew up without a mother. Amina Khallis lived the rest of her life with brain damage from being shot in the head. Edward Byrne's father wore a black mourning band on his NYPD badge until the day he retired. Bruce Kennedy's family still visits his grave in Philadelphia, and the lesson of these 5 men is always the same one. The most ruthless men in the drug game do not die rich. They do not die on beaches in Miami. They die in concrete cells where the only thing left to rule is silence. These were the 5 black kingpins who did the unthinkable. And this is how the unthinkable always ends.